And we're pausing, and we're live. I hope.
Hello. Good morning. Good
Good
evening.
morning.
Hello.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Right?
Yeah, we're signing off now. That's it. That was
Okay,
it. That's
yeah,
the show.
we're loading on the live stream. Okay, cool. Hi, welcome to .NET Community Stand-Up. I'm Kendra Havens, your host. This week is the tooling week, so we talk all about different tools in the Visual Studio family. I'm very excited about our guest today. John, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, thanks, Kendra. So I'm John, and I'm a program manager on the Visual Studio for Mac team. But my focus right now is the tools for Unity, so in both Visual Studio and Visual Studio for Mac.
Excellent. And Cody, my co-host, you know well.
Yes, I am still Cody, as much as I try not to be. Yeah, so still doing VS for Mac stuff. We got some cool stuff to talk about too. So
yeah. So before we dive into that, let's go over some community news. Great. So as always, keep an eye on the .NET blog and the Visual Studio blog for updates that have happened to our tools. Two things I wanted to talk about in Visual Studio was that we had a Visual Studio Extensibility Day, which was a pretty big success. So that's where Mads Christensen, our Extensibility PM, invited, all of his best friends, 60 attendees onto campus, and they went over extensions in sort of like a collaborative manner with their partners, and they had talks and demoed a lot of tools. It's a cool blog post. Check it out. We got to learn a lot about like what pain points people are currently experiencing, and yeah. Anyway, Mads is an all-star. Another big deal, Visual Studio 2019 version 16.1 went GA, as well as 16.2 Preview 1. So hop on that 2019 train. It'll only get better with every minor release and more stable with every minor release. So just so you know, it's not the brand new 16.0 shininess. It's aged a bit. We're in 16.1 now. I also want to call out massive performance gains in Visual Studio 2019. Just in general, this is our performance slide we're trying to bring attention to. Let's see. Just realized our pips were off. There we go. Now you can see us react to things. So Startup 1.5 times better. We're really excited about these across the board. Actually, John, since you're going to be talking about Unity today, how was the Unity Explorer plus Visual Studio? Have you experienced any performance improvements in 2019?
I think they mostly started in 15.8, and we started making some serious improvements.
Nice.
So we saw somewhere around 2x performance improvements in loading projects since 15.8, and then we've been kind of incrementing on that in 15.9. And I think the biggest performance improvements that are coming to the top of my mind for 16 or Visual Studio 2019 are for building projects. So there was kind of a feature in Visual Studio with Unity projects, when you build a project, we were doing a full Visual Studio build, but that really isn't necessary since Unity is actually doing the build, and the Visual Studio build part really wasn't used. So we kind of got rid of that, and now we'll just rely on the Unity build. So it kind of saves some time there. So
yeah, that's
there's no longer any unnecessary things happening there. So
wonderful. Okay, and a quick shout out to my personal goals are major Test Explorer UI improvements in the 16.2 Preview 1. So we have new filters, and we have adjustable and customizable columns that you can also filter on. We have target frameworks listed. So if you have a multi-targeted test, it's way easier to run which test is targeting which framework. And yeah, totally new group by. It's multi-tiered. It's customizable completely. You can design everything that's in an individual tier. Really excited about that. It's definitely a good reason to get onto the preview chain and be an early adopter and give us feedback, because it is a very big UI change and we need a lot of feedback. You guys know how it is. Another exciting thing I always want to call out, we have this Visual Studio pull request extension. It is awesome. I really want more people to use it. I want it to be a part of the default tools. This enables you to easily basically submit and review pull requests still in Visual Studios. You don't actually have to navigate to your browser. That is your view on your web server and everything like that. So you can even like pull your coworker's branch onto your machine. It gives you a really rich, like you can still debug, you can still get IntelliSense, you still get navigation, but you're inside of their PR. So it's a really great review experience. And that's pull request extension for Visual Studio. Okay.
Love it.
Cody, did you have a couple news items that you wanted to call out?
Yeah, so we have the latest update of the preview for Visual Studio for Mac coming out on, don't quote me anybody, but I'm going to say it live.
No
on
promises.
Tuesday the 4th.
This is a live stream.
It is, yes.
Tuesday the 4th.
Maybe, I didn't say which month, so
right.
It might be July, it might be August. The cool thing about this one is that it is part of the 8.1 series, so it's 8.1 preview 4, preview 3, which will include the new editor by default. So this new editor that we've talked about a few times already, it is now at the point where we think that it is stable and performant enough to replace the old editor. We've also added some great new features to it. We have inline live bulb support, so if you have a quick fix suggestion, you don't have to go all the way to the margin. We have a new go to line number UI, which looks a lot like Spotlight in Mac. It uses the same actual UX code that
like the
Coco.
hovering menu.
Yeah,
above
exactly.
It.
So you just have go to line there. We have new multi-carat options that you can use to have these really crazy multi-carat editing experiences. I know that's pretty important for Unity devs too.
I still get oohs and ahs about multi-carat. Like, it's been in Visual Studio for over a year. I definitely demoed it at last build, but like we just used it like subtly at this build, and people are like, oh, in the audience, like, wait a second, what did you do? That's new, call it out.
I was going to say something too. I was getting excited about that.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that, what you demoed at Build this year, we actually, not to borrow code from Visual Studio, but we borrowed code from Visual Studio and put it into Visual Studio for Mac. So it's actually the exact same feature set. So previously in the 8.0 preview and 8.0 series, all we could really do is set a few carrots. But now you can do a bunch of things like rotating the carrots around and all these super power user features that we have in Visual Studio Windows now are on Visual Studio for Mac. So that's a pretty exciting feature set that we have coming out. But all in all, just check out the preview channel if you're on Visual Studio for Mac starting on Tuesday-ish, and download the latest update and let us know how it goes. Again, just like Kendra said, we really need all this feedback that we can get because it is a preview feature right now. We want to make it a stable feature. So any issues that you're having, please let me know. File and developer community, shoot me a tweet, whatever you want to do. Fly out to Portland and say hi to me and tell me. Either way, just whatever gets gets that information out. No.
Previous months you were like, I check developer community tickets every single day, and you're like the person behind it. I might check them once a week.
It's fun.
But I'll dive in and I block off time and everything. But every day. It is good stuff.
Yeah,
it's just good. It's awesomely responsive.
Yeah. Well, that's try to make sure that we are feedback driven. So any issues you run into, anything at all, just let us know. But yeah, check it out. I think it's gonna be pretty great. And we have some VS Live coming up in a little bit. Set of conferences.
Yeah. Oh gosh, when is that?
Yours truly is scared to speak at VS Live, but I'm going to be doing that anyway. Yeah. In August at the Microsoft campus. So if you want to hear some stuff about VS for Mac, sign up for that session and go to VS Live, and we're going to have a whole presentation on VS for Mac from pull to push. So it's great.
Yeah. So
what is your talk on? I missed it.
It's all the way VS for Mac. I think I gotta look up the title. It is Visual Studio for Mac from I think Get to Push or something. Let me see.
Fun. That's reason enough to go see Cody live.
To see me try to remember what my speech is about exactly.
You'll do great.
There you go. Agenda, speakers. It's a very catchy title too. So catchy that I can't remember it. Visual Studio for Mac, from checkout to publish.
Ooh.
So so it's going to cover the whole life cycle from, for both mobile apps, .NET Core apps, from when you start to when you publish it, all the way through putting it on the App Store or on Azure, wherever you want to publish it. So it should be fun. I might do terribly. We don't
know. No, I spoke at VS Live. I think that was last year, I believe. I loved it. Just so you know. There's a lot of people, they tend to be experts going to the conference, and they'll let you have it if they don't agree with some design decisions or the history that we've done, and it's always super educational, but in like a good way.
Yeah, they're like, fun,
Yeah, they're it's a really great audience. Cool. Okay, so enough talk, chit chat. Let's get into some code today. John, do you want to give us an intro to Unity and what we're going to be looking at?
Oh, we're supposed to look at code.
Yeah, what is Unity, by the way?
Okay.
We keep on talking about it like it's the coolest thing.
Well, it is the coolest thing, at least in my world. So Unity is, how do you even describe it? Let me think. It is a content creation platform. Probably the best way that people know about it is it's rooted in game development. And I think that's kind of where it started, but it's used in a lot of other industries today. But my focus and my interests have always been with game development, so that's kind of how I think of Unity, and that's what I use Unity for. So Unity is a way to make 3D and 2D games and many other experiences, including mixed reality. We can using HoloLens or any of the mixed reality headsets. You can publish to, I don't know, they have like 30-some publishing targets, like Xbox and PlayStation and all the desktop and mobile platforms. And then things like Switch and Nintendo products. There's all sorts of targets there. So there's tons of stuff. So yeah, it's a really big platform for creating content. However you want to envision that, whether it's games or movies or something for automotive or maybe an expo experience, something at a conference, something like that.
Yeah, so a HoloLens app.
Yeah, exactly.
Also
in fact, that's Unity. I mean, you make HoloLens apps with Unity, so perfect.
Yeah, super, super extensible, and it is. I wish I worked on games all day. Come on, it's really cool. Cool. So, did you want to give us a brief overview of sort of what the tools are, what development with Unity kind of looks like?
Sure. Let me share my screen.
Be like an intro.
Sure. Let me share my screen, and I will.
Yeah.
That's not the right screen. Hold on.
It's okay.
Let's go with this. There we go.
I'll also take a second to figure out Stream Deck. There we go. Tanks.
Okay. Yep. So this is the Unity
Tanks
editor.
A lot, John.
Tanks a lot, Thanks. You guys.
Oh, the puns.
Oh, sorry. Moving on.
Well, hopefully this demo will be equally in quality as the jokes. So this is the Unity editor, and this is kind of where you start with projects. So you can create new projects, and they open up in the Unity editor, and this kind of gives you a view into your project. So I'll just quickly highlight the UI. If you're already familiar with it, great. If you're not, so on the left side you have hierarchy, which is kind of like a solution explorer in Visual Studio, where you kind of see objects and you can click on them, and then the details show up in the inspector. And you can think of that kind of like the properties window. And then you can dock these things wherever you want. This is totally customizable UI. This is just the way I like it to be set up. So you have your scene view, which is where you can kind of move around your 3D objects or 2D objects and kind of move things around and position, design your level. And you have the game scene, which is a view into what it looks like through the camera that you have in your game. And also, if you run your game, this is where you'll see like a real-time play of it. So you can kind of play your game right here inside the editor rather than have to like fully build it and run an exe or something like that. And then you have your project windows down here, shows all your files from C# scripts to shader files to 3D models. Everything is in here, and you organize it into folders.
Oh yeah, so those files will define like the objects that you have present in your game?
Sometimes that's where that is. So you can have things like there's definitions for maybe what an object is and customize it. You might also have your scripts in here. So if you look here, you can see I have some scripts in this sample called tank health and tank movement, tank shooting, and one of the common patterns is to have things like this in a folder named scripts. So it's really easy to navigate between them.
And that's where the C# comes in, right? Up in the scripts and whatnot.
Exactly. Yep. So
Sweet.
you traditionally you would customize all the behavior of your game using C# scripts. And I'll give you a quick look into what that looks like and then kind of how that ties in with Visual Studio. So we switch over to Visual Studio, and I have one of the scripts open here called Game Manager. And so if you're familiar with Visual Studio, you'll feel right at home. And the way this works is anytime you want to edit your C# script files or debug them, you can jump over into Visual Studio and write your code with all the productivity features that you're used to in Visual Studio. And then we package a couple things as part of the tools for Unity into Visual Studio that give you some additional enhancements like debugging support. And we have this window over here called the Unity Project Explorer, which is like the Solution Explorer, but it filters only on the things that are important in a Unity context. So with Unity projects, you don't necessarily need to see a solution file or a project file or a lot of those other things that you would normally look at in a C# project. Instead, what we do here is we copy what the Unity editor shows. So if you jump back over here, you see this assets folder. So we kind of we basically show this inside of Visual Studio, so you don't have to keep jumping back and forth. So you can quickly one-to-one reference your scripts and be able to go back and forth without switching between Unity and Visual Studio.
Oh, sure. That's great. I remember talking with Maria Nagaga. I think she's working with some students using Unity, and she was kind of, I forget how she phrased it, but she was asking them about C#, and they were kind of like, oh, we don't use C#. And she's like, but your Unity developers, that's a C# script right there. And they're like, oh, that's what, I guess I'm a .NET developer. I don't know. It was an afterthought that they actually were using C#, which is cool. I think people have for a long time kind of thought of, well, at least I thought of C# as sort of the professional language. Like you use Java in school, and when you got your first job or something, that's when you started in on .NET and C#. But here it's really cool that students and indie game developers and people hobbyists and stuff kind of get that exposure through Unity.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. Because as I talk to game developers, I find that they're not, at least they don't articulate themselves as .NET developers, and they're really not focused on C#. C# is just kind of a means to an end and into how they're writing their code. But there's a lot of programming patterns and idioms in Unity projects that aren't typical throughout the rest of the .NET ecosystem. So, as we look at the tools for Unity, we're trying to identify what those are and then make the IDE aware of those types of things. So that way we can give more specific help to Unity projects and not just generic C# help that may not apply.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're investigating and try to just make the overall experience of writing C# for Unity projects specifically better.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's another case of us just trying to, I guess, be inclusive and go meet developers where they are, instead of trying to convince them that they're .NET developers. They're Unity developers. Cool.
Right. Exactly. So one other thing I could show is just show a little bit. You know what? Let me highlight one thing. So something we talked about in March at the Game Developer Conference was we were showing developers IntelliCode, which I believe you've talked about on this before. So what I learned was that not a lot of Unity developers knew what that was. So IntelliCode works for Unity projects as well. And so that's like the AI-assisted IntelliSense. And so at GDC back in March, that team made Unity projects work with IntelliCode by default. So when you install the IntelliCode extension, or you have 2019 and you have IntelliCode, then, well, let me find something interesting here that I can show.
Yeah, it should work on the dot length. Anything on a string.
Yeah, I'm looking for something maybe specific.
Oh, that's Unity specific.
Yeah, something Unity
so much
specific.
Better. You're right.
Yeah, so that's kind of, let me see if this is
Like
Scene Manager.
Scene Manager.
Yeah,
hey,
so here we
there
go.
It
So let me
is.
get rid of this. So here's like a Unity specific API, the Scene Manager, and you can see that the IntelliCode suggestions are the stars, and these are Unity specific APIs. So they've trained this on a bunch of Unity samples and code that we were able to get of Unity projects to try and give AI powered suggestions for Unity specific APIs by default, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So you can be even more productive as a Unity developer just by installing this extension right off the bat.
Okay, so your extension contains an IntelliCode model that is specifically trained for Unity projects?
Exactly.
Whoa, that's great.
Yeah, it's really cool. So you get it by default.
Yeah.
So that's
very
and
cool.
You can also train it on, games. So one of the challenges we have with IntelliCode is that game developers are very secretive about their game code, which totally makes sense.
Yeah, it's the golden ticket.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes sense, and that same type of problem is in the enterprise world as well. But the challenge with Unity projects is, you need a lot of game code, a good quality game code, to train like a really good model for this AI powered IntelliSense.
True.
So that was always the challenge, but we got to a point where we had enough code to do kind of a base. So you'll get some suggestions for a lot of the Unity APIs, but what you can also do is you can, if you already have a Unity project, you can train it on your own models as well. So this window here for IntelliCode, so you can create a new model based on your own code, and so you'll get AI suggestions based off of your code. Or what I did is I downloaded this Fps Sample, which is a large Unity sample that's designed to be it's a sample, but it's created with like real world practices, and it's really it's huge. It's like 18 gigs, so it's a lot of code. So yeah, you can see it covered almost 2,500 classes here. So I can use this sample now on any of my Unity projects. So I get a lot of cool suggestions based off of that code that aren't my doing. Those are from industry experts writing that code. So so you can share these models with other people as well. So it's really cool that you can use it with Unity projects.
Very cool. It's really fun to see tools like this integrate into like other scenarios. That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah. What else did you want to show in your tour of Unity?
Well, I guess it's just important to highlight too, if you're not familiar with Unity and kind of using Visual Studio, obviously you probably want to debug something. So the tools for Unity allow you to do that. You can see the debug button up here is changed now. It says attached to Unity. So the way this works is you can press this and we'll start a debug session, and you can go back to Unity and you can play your game. And once the game launches, then you'll actually be able to use breakpoints and step through your code just as you would for any other project type. So it's everything you would expect using Visual Studio, but you can debug your game logic that way too. So it's really powerful.
Wow.
So it's everything you would expect.
And the same is true for Mac as well, right? If you're using Unity with Visual Studio for Mac, you get the same kind of handoff integration there.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Perfect.
So yeah, everything is the same there on Mac. The one exception would be what I just talked about with IntelliCode yet, just because IntelliCode's not in VS for Mac yet. But debugging, yeah.
I'm teasing something in the future.
Yay.
Right. Yet. So debugging and the Unity Project Explorer, all of those tools for Unity features, they're the same. One cool thing we recently did, I believe it was in the 8.0 release of VS for Mac, is we took the debugger that we have for tools for Unity on Windows, which has been around for a long time, and it's been proven to be pretty stable and performant, and we migrated that over to VS for Mac. So we got all those performance improvements and stability improvements that we've had for a couple years now, and we are able to bring them to the Mac side to try and bring a little bit of parity to that experience. And that comes from the feedback we heard from developers on developer community and on the forums and just in one-on-one conversations, that the debugging experience was not great on Mac for Unity projects. So we wanted to fix that and obviously make it better. So that's what we did.
Very cool. I'm actually just like super curious. Can we demo this game at all? And like,
Yeah,
play it?
Yeah, sure. Let me play this.
They just have a multiplayer game of this.
Yeah,
now.
so this is a sample that's freely available on Unity's asset store. So you can just create a project and import the assets, and you get all this code on all the models, and you can just basically press play and you can play it. And then there's a tutorial series that actually lets you kind of customize it and build it as you go through it.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, I forgot I was debugging here.
Where is the tutorial series if I wanted to get started with Unity and C# development?
I will show you. Let me see where this game is. Where my tanks at? Oh, they're right there. Kind of. Here comes my tank.
Tiny little tanks.
Yeah.
Oh. Wait, are you're controlling that with your mouse?
Yeah, with my keyboard. Keys? Yeah, okay. My keyboard. Yeah, something's a little funky with the resolution because I changed the resolution here, but
right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I had to
like
bump it
mice.
up
like
last minute. Yeah.
Yeah. So this game is like a 2-player co-op game, and so half my keyboard is to control the red tank, and the other half of my keyboard is to control the blue tank. You can kind of shoot each other back and forth, and it's a pretty cool sample.
Really fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And the tutorial series, so in the asset store, let me see if I can load this quick. And the asset store is a really cool way to get lots of assets. So like models or scripts, or all sorts of stuff to kind of bootstrap a Unity project really fast. So if you have an idea for a game and you're like, well, I'm not an artist, check out the asset store. There's lots of really good stuff there for either free or cheap. And let me show you where this, so here's the tanks tutorial. So this is what you kind of import into your project.
Mm-hmm.
And you can think of it sort of like a really big NuGet package. It's almost 50 megs because it includes models and other non-code files. So you import that, and then once that's in your project, most of the tutorials come with a README file, which show you exactly how to get to the tutorial. So you can open this in the browser and kind of go through it, and it can walk you through how to implement health on your tanks, how to implement shooting, how to implement movement. So there's lots of great resources there to get started, so you don't have to be intimidated by game development. Unity has already provided tons of that kind of stuff.
That's great. And we got a question in chat. It's sort of like we've always made a lot of workshops or tutorials for kind of newbies. Do we have any more like intermediate or advanced tutorials that you would recommend?
So from the Microsoft end, we don't that I know of, but on Unity's website, they have this whole platform called Learn, and they have tracks for beginner and intermediate and maybe advanced, I don't remember. But I know there's some really good intermediate series. So I would definitely check out their site. You can just go to Unity, I think unity3d.com/learn, and check out, they have a whole kind of like e-learning platform that lets you pick up some really cool samples. I remember one that's...
I believe I'm there right now. I'll switch to my screen. It's
go ahead.
unity.com/learn experience.
Yeah, so there's like courses. There's a really cool tutorial to make like a 3D like hack and slash action game, kind of like if you think like Diablo or something like that, like in the style of that. And it kind of walks you through the whole process, but it provides you with all the artwork too, which is really nice.
Oh, and certificates. Oh gosh, yeah, the artwork that like that Unity and everyone has on their landing pages is always stunning. Holy
and I think
cow.
one thing that John touched on quickly, that I think is important to talk about, is that Unity is a great way to really introduce yourself to some of the paradigms of game development and whatnot, because it does have these introductory samples and more intermediate and advanced samples. But it's game development can be intimidating once you like load up this IDE, and there's so many different areas. But if you use these assets and use these resources available to you, you can really get going quickly. Like the tank sample, you can get quickly, just to change the color of the tank, or to change one of the assets around, or just something minor that changes the way of the game, and you can learn step by step that way too. So it's a good way to get started with something that is a very dense subject, something that's very very advanced. Really, it's one of the more advanced realms of software development. So I think that Unity offers great things there.
There's so much there. There's like objects planning, just putting your mind in a 3D space with lighting and shading, and then you have like gravity and game mechanics, and it's just a lot to take in, I think, for any single game. But your game can be as like simple as you need it to be. So I'm glad we have a bunch of beginner tutorials out there for kind of tackling each section that makes a game really good alone. Super cool.
Yeah, I spent a week making tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, it's
not solid, but you know, and to be fair, it was not just like tic-tac-toe. That maybe took me 2 hours, but to make a multiplayer tic-tac-toe game, it just starts to snowball.
Yeah,
it's like,
for
okay,
sure.
well now I need authentication. Now I need to log in, and now I need to, you know, synchronize objects over the network between mobile devices, and then I got to publish the mobile, and it just becomes the, you know, normal software engineering challenges, not just game development challenges. So it does get complicated fast.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Did you have anything else you wanted to show on your screen? I can switch back to.
Let me highlight one thing. So one thing I forgot to show, I had mentioned I was going to talk about, but I didn't show it. So if I go back to Visual Studio, so something else we talked about at GDC that developers thought was really cool that they didn't know worked for Unity projects is you can use a Visual Studio Live Share. And have you talked about Live Share? I imagine you have.
I'm not sure if we've demoed it in the stand-up, but we've talked about it maybe a little. Okay.
So Live Share is a way to do like real-time collaboration inside your IDE, for those that are not familiar with it. So you can think like if you were using some online doc editor and you can see everybody's cursor and you can all edit text at the same time. That's kind of what Live Share is. So you can do the same thing by just clicking this Live Share button up here. You'll get a link that you can share with a colleague or a friend.
Do you want to chat it to me?
Sure.
We can see if this will work live. Sorry, I always like to up the stakes.
Hey, we'll do it live. Let me go into the chat here. Where is it?
Yeah. Here, I'll switch.
So confused because I'm seeing
screen.
Yeah, I'm seeing so many screens.
Sorry, I led us into the Infinite Teams thing. Okay.
Okay. All right,
I'll
there you go.
just click on your live share. It'll launch. Oh, I guess I'll start it in VS Code. Let's start in Visual Studio. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, either one will work.
Just everybody's, you know, Kendra doesn't have Unity installed at all, really. Correct? Like it's you just have like a.
I don't think I have anything on Unity on my computer. So when I open this,
she's Unity free on her computer. Let's see when we hop over to her screen if you know,
and
if live TVs works or not.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like James is joining it too.
Here, let's see.
Yeah. There we go. Kendra and James are both in it. What's James gonna do?
This is why you don't just post things into chats. No. James is always a part of our community stand-up chat. Good. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so I can see, your cursor. I'll switch to my screen, and you can probably see mine. I'll put mine down there.
All right, there we go. Yeah, so it's like you're editing a Word doc.
And I can like highlight stuff as we're talking about it. Super cool. James, get out of the way. No, I'm kidding.
I believe can Kendra launch a debug session on your computer?
I'm already in a debug session.
Actually,
right, I'll switch to my screen. So this is my screen, everyone. So I already see these stop debugging and break all steps that I'm getting because I joined while John was still in a debug session, I believe.
Yeah, let me run the Unity game and we'll see if we can step through. So are you able to step through the code here?
I switched back to your screen. I'll switch back to mine. I'm glad I'm using the blue theme so you know it's me. It looks like, so there's the debug breakpoint that you set on my screen, and I can go up here and step into. Step along. Cool. Holy crap.
I can see you changing that. So it's cool. You can kind of debug your game logic with a colleague, and they don't have to have all of your source code. They don't even have to have Unity installed.
Yeah.
And they even get your IntelliCode. So if you have your AI model trained on your computer, John, Kendra can get the benefits of that if she needs to write a quick line of code for you or something as well. So it's really powerful for this, this collaborative thing. And we didn't plan this at all either. This is all just
nope. Spur of the moment.
Yeah.
It's so nice when demos work perfectly, even though they're spur of the moment. One thing I wanted to call out that I also love about live share, now we're just on a live share parade, is I can actually edit or go around and navigate to completely other things that John isn't currently working on. So I can like explore his code structure if I'm like thinking about something else, or we're both trying to debug a single issue, even though I have none of his code on my machine. So cool. Okay.
That is really cool.
That's my.
And it's super secure too.
Plug.
It's a direct connection, so it's not sharing your code across, the scary internet or anything. It's just like
as
it's
soon
a
as I
super
leave
secure
this
direct
session,
connection.
I won't have his code anymore. But so I can go somewhere else, and then if I get lost or John is like, oh, come back to like what I'm looking at, I can just click on his icon up here and go back to following John for where his cursor is and where he's navigated to. So it's a super smooth experience. I like it. Let's see.
It really is, and it works with other projects too. But what we found is that Unity developers didn't know about this, and so wanted to share that and just say, what we were hearing was a lot of game development teams work remotely, or they don't work in the same location. They might work in an office, but maybe they don't work in the same location, or the whole team is remotely, even across the world. And debugging an issue, just like in any other project type, debugging issues becomes like this long cycle of, let me send you something over Slack, or let me email you, or send you some snippet, and then trying to debug something. And this helps solve that problem. So it's really powerful, and you can share your debug sessions with Unity projects. So definitely try that out.
Gosh, especially for the issues where it's just like, if you could just look at my screen, you would know something was completely set up wrong, and like it helps debugging so much.
There's no more using FaceTime to like point it at your screen and be like, do you see this? It would not do that anymore.
Or sharing desktop. Even though
that's probably the better solution than FaceTime.
Shared desktop is honestly really smooth. It's crazy that just in like during my time working at Microsoft, we've like moved away from Skype and shared desktop there and sharing desktop on Teams. It's just so
Teams
nice.
needs to have the annotation pin that Slack has, though. I shouldn't say that out loud, but that's one of the best features.
You should file that feedback.
I will.
On the Teams team. Yeah.
Teams team.
Teams team.
The meta team.
Go team. Cool. Okay. Did we cover everything? Is that it? Is that our live stream?
We just might have some questions out there from everybody.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Let's see what we have in here.
Do I want to go deeper into Unity? Yes, always. Actually, I can low-key brag. I have used Unity to develop with HoloLens. It only took me like an hour or two to set up the first tutorial, and I borrowed HoloLens from a Microsoft recruiter. And it was fun. I got set up. I watched Alex Turner's HoloLens tutorials. Probably getting a little bit old nowadays, but they're really helpful, easy to follow.
Well, I think that's a good point too. Is like, does IntelliCode work with your game code too, with a custom model builder? I'm gonna give that one over to John.
Yeah, it does. And maybe I forgot to mention it, but what I had showed a little bit earlier, I believe, was that I had downloaded a very large Unity sample called the Fps Sample. It's like 18 gigs, and there's a lot of really high quality code in there, and it makes a good sample to train on. So I trained a model on that code, and then I can reuse that in any of the projects that I create. So I get a lot of awesome suggestions from people who are smarter than me, and I don't have to do anything but click a button. So that's pretty awesome. So yes, it works, James.
Yeah, so completely custom. Oh, that was from James.
Yeah.
Shameless
and
plugs.
there was a seed question. He's getting a conversation going. And then also, and to kind of loop it back to live share, as I said, you still get that model. Like Kendra could get that model. I could get that model in VS Code on my Mac and be able to use that IntelliCode in helping him debug a problem as well. So it really does share everything within the system. And like I said, you can if you have a Mac user over in your company and you want to have them do some stuff too, VS Code would surely support, plugging into the Unity session as well on John's machine. So it's super powerful. Does VS come with Unity? John, James, you're doing all these like seed questions.
Is it free?
Does VS come with Unity? So when you install Visual Studio, there's an option to install the workload that I believe is called Game Development with Unity. And when you install that, that gives you a couple things. It gives you the option to install Unity, and it gives you the tools for Unity. Or when you install Unity, which I believe is how most developers would acquire Unity, there's an option to install Visual Studio. So there's kind of a reciprocation there. So depending on if you get one before the other, they both offer each other. So that makes it easy to get both.
Mm-hmm.
And same with Mac as well. If you are doing the Mac installer, you can install Unity from the Unity store, wherever you get it, and it will install VS for Mac as well. So you get both worlds there.
Yeah, and for VS for Mac, there's nothing you have to do special to get Unity support. It's included. On Windows, it's a separate checkbox to install.
Yes.
But on Mac, it comes with it. And is it free? Yes, it is free. There is a free tier. They have a pricing structure of Unity. They have a licensing model, but there's a very generous free tier, and then you can use Visual Studio Community with it.
That's a great way. The free tier is, again, a great way to get started if you are wanting to learn about game development. And I think it's pretty full-featured, so you can really dive in and learn more about how fun it is.
Free for like students and hobbyists.
Yeah, I think definitely don't quote me on this, but I kind of remember it being free up to a certain amount of money that your company makes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember what that amount is, but it's pretty generous, especially so you can do a lot of development and even release full games with it. And then once you hit a certain level of income, then you would probably have to switch over to Pro. Or if there's features that you want with Pro, then you'll have to go that route. But you can check out their page. I think it's unity.com/pricing.
Yeah, I was looking for it.
Yeah. When you go to download it, it has 3 little areas you can check there. But you can start with the free version for sure and go from there.
Yeah, sounds reasonable.
Over to YouTube, see if everybody's over there. Oh, okay. Here, can I develop games for all platforms like Nintendo, Sony, and others? Yeah, I think that Unity does support all those. I don't know if John has some more details on exactly which platforms are supported.
Well, it's actually. I can't think of a platform off the top of my head right now that isn't supported. So it supports a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the answer to that question is yes, you can. For everything you mentioned. 3DS, yep, you can everything.
And it's not
Xbox.
only the games that you create can be run on multiple different platforms. It's also the Unity editor can work cross-platform as well. Like we were just talking about, if you have a Mac, you use VS for Mac or VS Code to develop with it. But you can also download it on Windows. Obviously, it uses Visual Studio for Windows for your C# scripts.
Yeah, that's right.
I think one of the things that John touched on earlier too is about the enterprise applications to Unity that aren't just game developments. Like if people, like a real estate company or a home remodeling company showing a virtual living room, there's all these different applications that you can use with Unity. Any sort of content modeling or 3D modeling that you want to do. Games is kind of like where it all started, but you can use it all sorts of places too. I think there's automotive, film, animation, and cinematics. So yeah, it's all those.
Beautiful website. Oh my gosh.
I think there's a film recently that used Unity, wasn't it? I just forget which one it was.
Yeah, there was the Baymax short films. So there was a Disney released some short animation films. I forget where they published those, but they were all made with Unity. And they have kind of a case study about it on their website, which is really cool. And they talked about that at their conference last year. So I think what award do films win? I forget. But
Oscars?
They won that award. No, not that. Those are actors.
I
forget. Is it Emmys or something? I don't remember.
No, Emmys is TV.
Is it? Yeah, I don't remember. But there's some award that's a big deal, and Baymax won that, so we should definitely look that up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very cool.
I probably should know that, but I forget.
I'm just drilling over the website over here, facial mocap, I guess, so you can film yourself making facial expressions, and it applies to the characters. Gosh, I want to get into this stuff. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
it's almost like it's like Animoji, but in Unity. Unity emoji.
There's so
but
many
film quality.
Yeah, but nice.
not just a dinosaur talking or something.
Well, it'd be a really high def dinosaur talking. Okay, we're professionals.
Yes.
Oh,
very
it's so
serious
cool.
Dinosaur.
Okay. Well,
yeah, there's a lot that it can do, and there's so much that I don't even know. I've been using Unity for like 5 years, as a hobbyist, and there's still so much of it that I haven't even explored yet. So I'm pretty excited as I keep learning.
Yeah, that's how I feel about general Visual Studio development and .NET ecosystem and all of that. There's so much that is there.
I think John says that Oat Studios also use Unity for their short films. So that's good too. Yeah. So it's a good thing to learn. If you want to dive into it, it's powerful.
Yeah. All right. I think on this note of excitement and limitless possibilities, we'll wrap up the live stream. That's always a good time to end when people are excited to go try out new stuff, right?
Yeah. Now I want to go use it.
Go make a movie. Whatever you want to do.
Definitely. Well, thank you, John, so much for joining us and showing off Unity. I hope we have you back. Maybe we can dive into more complex things sometimes. Cool. Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys for all tuning in.
Just thank you, everybody, and talk to you again in a few weeks.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's see.